This episode's going to be a little personal for me, and I thought I'd start off with an embarrassing story. What a great place to start, right? A little bit of embarrassment for me. So years ago, when Gary Polson was prospecting our company, so he wasn't even working in the company yet. He had just retired from the printing business. He's in his 40s and he's looking to get the next thing going. So he's looking at our business. And so he does a shadowing day in my office with me. I was a rookie owner. And it was like a 14-hour long shadowing day. I mean, he came to my office at 6:30 in the morning and almost went till 9 p.m. And one of the questions that Gary asked, Jamie, what's your biggest pain? Where's the biggest pain point in your business? And without even thinking, I already knew the pain. And the pain was, Gary, it looks like the speedometer on my car is going 100 miles an hour, right? I'm showing up at work at 6:30, 6:45 every morning, and I'm working like a dog till 9, 9:30, sometimes 10 o'clock at night. So my speedometer's saying 100, but in reality, it feels like I'm only going 10 miles an hour. Like I'm not getting the return on my investment, and it's frustrating. He doesn't say anything to me. He doesn't give me any advice. He's just taking notes. Months later, after Gary's in our company, I get notice that, hey, Jamie, I'm sending you to a time management seminar. Happens to be on a Monday. I remember that Monday because my response, I'm like, oh, Mondays are busy days. Gary, I appreciate you thinking about me. I just don't have time for a time management backspace. Might have found the problem. Gary, it'd be my pleasure. Thank you so much. Looking forward to it. Didn't want to embarrass myself and say I didn't have time for a time management seminar. That might have been the problem. So this particular episode isn't going to be so much on time management or priority management, although that will be covered a bit. It's really more on values. Years ago I heard this, that your decisions expose your values. I remember hearing that, and I'm like, and the guy actually that ran a seminar, his name is Hoke. Okay, this guy Hoke ran this seminar, and he says, you don't choose your values are exposed in your decisions. And that just didn't sit well with me. I'm like, really? You don't choose your values? And so I asked him in this class, I'm like, I don't like what you said. He says, good, I'm glad, because I want you guys to reverse engineer your life. Choose your values first, and then align your decision making with your values. If you haven't thought about what's important to you, again, your values will just be exposed through your daily decisions. I think Sebastian always says people do what they value most. So just pause, as we're all in the fast lane right now, right? I mean, again, this little drawing thing that I've done, this is the picture of what I wanted my life to look like. You can also draw a picture of what life looks like today. And anytime I've done the today stuff, it's usually kind of blurry because I'm driving fast. I don't have time to take a look around. But you got to stop in the freeway of life and just say, hey, what's important to me? I knew as a youngster, I probably knew at the age of 10, I wanted to get married. So if somebody asked me my why when I first started in the business, Jamie, what's your why? I would have said my wife. I want to marry a great woman. And a great woman ain't going to marry a loser. Okay, so I got to get my career kicking butt here. And I want to prepare myself for Mrs. Right is what I want to do. And I started going to the club less, started spending less money on stuff that just didn't matter. So again, I think it's a great question to ask yourself, what are your values? I do that exercise with my kids. My kids are 14, 10, and 6. And I ask them, hey, what are your values? So I just did this again with my son. And we went through his top. I said, just give me 10. Let's figure out your top 10 values. And I'm like, be honest here, because I know you love gaming and stuff like that. So don't not put that on there. Put gaming. I just want to know, is gaming more important than your sister? I just want to know. I just want to know how you rank these. But then when we get into planning in your calendar, it should be peppered with your values. So again, for young people, ask yourself, like, what's important to you? What matters the most? And then it should be reflected in your daily decision making. Since that conference, Gemma Loreska has followed up with me and asked, how do you teach or explain values to your kids? And similar to the story with Hoke, right, the instructor at this priority management or value seminar, listen, your values are exposed through your daily decisions. So really with my kids, like, hey, here's where you're spending your time. These could be great indicators of what's important to you, of what you value. So I think that's a great place to start, really, with kids or newer people, or really with ourselves. Where's our time going? Where's our money going? I heard a long time ago, if you really want to know what's important to somebody, take a look at their calendar, where are they spending their time, and take a look at their checkbook. Where are they spending their money? It was years ago that, I'm writing it down. I'm like, charitable giving is important to me. That's a value of mine. I want to help out the needy. Then I do a little bit of reflection and I'm looking through my checkbook. I'm like, Jamie, you're spending more money on your clothing, your personal clothing, than you are on charitable contributions. So don't kid yourself. What really is important to you? Where are your priorities? What are your values? And obviously, self-awareness is a great place to start. And all of these Franklin Covey seminars, okay, Franklin Covey, Benjamin Franklin, The Pursuit of Ben Franklin's Habits, and Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, a company called Franklin Covey. At all these seminars, which is where I met Hoke, okay, there's a famous line that's used in their teaching, and they're like, listen, don't get in the habit of prioritizing your schedule. Okay, that's a popular term. Hey, let's prioritize our schedules. Hey, we've got busy days, let's prioritize it. It's like, no, schedule your priorities. Let's just flip that script a little bit. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So what are your priorities? What are your values? And so the deep dive, and this is really where it gets personal, is Hoke, and again, all these instructors would encourage all of us, hey, what's your personal mission statement? Have you thought about that? I remember years ago, I saw Ted Kennedy on the news, and he was talking about, universal health care. And he said something in the interview that he said, this is the cause of my life. And I remember hearing that, I'm like, wow. I mean, talk about a man who knows his purpose and why he's on the planet and why he was born. Right? This is the cause of my life, to somehow influence legislation to make this a thing in this country. And I'm like, boy, there's a man with purpose. Whether you agree with him or disagree with him, the point is he's a purpose-driven guy. And have you figured out your mission statement? So I thought I'd just share mine with you. Again, this is where I become a little vulnerable and make this a little personal. And I shared this with Nabil Hazrachi over the weekend. We had a great deep dive. I love Nabil, and we've had so many intimate conversations over the years. And he's nodding. He's like, Jamie, that's who you are. And now your mission statement can change over time. And so if you ask me 2 years from now, Jamie, what's your personal mission statement? It might change, but here goes. Embody the life values. Life stands for leadership, integrity, faith, and excellence. Add value to others today with thoughtfulness, encouragement, and example setting. That's it. That's my mission statement. When I wake up in the morning, I recite that. That's the purpose of my life. And I would encourage everybody, like, listen, when you're trying to figure out, again, values, take a crack, take a stab at identifying your personal mission statement. Okay, so you've got your personal mission statement, or at least your rough draft of your personal mission statement. What about your values? And I've got 2 stories I want to share with you here. One is a John Maxwell seminar. I've been lucky enough to go to a few of his seminars. This one happened to be called Today Matters. And at Today Matters, John had a deck of cards underneath everybody's chair, okay? The values cards. You can go on Amazon, just type in values cards, and you'll see a bunch of different options. But it looks like a deck of cards, okay? But the cards all have values on them. And so the exercise that John gave everybody says, hey, take the deck of cards. On the left pile, these are cards that represent you. These are values that would describe you. And the pile on the right, you're just going to discard. Those just aren't your values, okay? So go ahead, do the exercise. Okay, well, this one's me, this one's not me. This one's me, this one's not me. No problem. You basically split the pile in half. John then says, all right, well, take that list of values that represent you and narrow it down to your top 10. Hear a little bit of groaning from the crowd, like, gee, I got to narrow it down to 10, and you got to pick and choose. Okay, you guys are done with that exercise? Now narrow it down to 5. The groaning gets a little bit louder. Like, oh, really? I got to take 10 cards and whittle it down to 5? And gee, that was a tougher exercise than just figuring out, which ones were you and which ones weren't you. Okay, you got your 5? Now whittle it down to 3. Tons of groaning, largest sounding groans came from that part. But what a great exercise to really figure out what's important to you, what values, represent you, choose them wisely, be proactive. Back to the Franklin Covey team. Listen, if you don't want your values exposed in your daily decisions, let's be proactive and choose our values. So here's an exercise. You've got 48 hours. Okay, so Hoke, okay, I'm thinking of Hoke, he used to be a Green Beret in the military. Again, when he says something, you're like, yes, sir, you jump how high. You've got 48 hours, write down your values and write a clarifying statement beside each value. So again, similar to John Maxwell, the values exercise, you've got 48 hours, like make the time. Don't blow this off. Don't just be thinking about it. I mean, do it. 48 hours, pen, paper, let's go. And so over the years, I mean, this normally is sitting on the shelf back there, but I've got it framed, and I've got this framed for a reason. I don't get a lot of people coming into my office, but obviously my children will come in here, and I want them to see this. And I want them to potentially call me out if I'm a hypocrite, if it says something on here, because here's the value and here's the clarifying statement. Well, you call out your old man. And I hope that they adopt many of these values that are important to me. I hope as they grow up, they adopt these values too. Want to share a couple of these values here with you guys. Value number 18. This is a list of my top 30 values. Number 18, personal growth. Personal growth is never accidental. It's intentional. Be a great student of great leaders. Be curious. Forgiveness. I will not hold grudges on anyone. I will be quick to forgive and forget. Family and friends hits the number 6 spot. Create special moments and special memories with special people. And freedom, number 22. It's not my ability to choose that makes me free. It's the decisions that I make in that freedom that makes me free. So deep thoughts here. I know I'm going through deep thoughts, and I said this is going to be personal, but this has been an exercise that I take a look at every month. Every month, the first Sunday of every month, I sit down, I evaluate these, I recite these. Do I want to tweak them? Do I want to add? Do I want to delete? Do I want to change? But that's the values exercise. I have to tell you, this values exercise, identify your values and a clarifying statement beside each value, might be one of the hardest exercises that I've ever had to do and continue to do. Like, I feel like I'm a work in progress. I need to get to the lab every month and take a look at this. And here's really where the rubber meets the road. I saved this from my first seminar. It's this little pyramid here, right? Where, it's really, this is the pyramid of planning, the pyramid of effectiveness, where at the bottom of the pyramid, you've set your values. Okay, did the hardest exercise. Then the next layer is set goals. Maybe I can come in a little bit closer. Plan weekly, and then plan daily. So if you're planning, right, I think everybody here is planning. If you're planning daily, but you haven't really figured out what's important and you really haven't figured out what your values are, you could be very busy and you might not ever really be effective. You might be like how I saw myself. I felt like I'm the master of the C priorities. I'm great at checklists and I'm doing things and I'm productive and I'm busy. But are you busy doing the important things? Or are you engaged in doing the unimportant things? You're just doing lots of them so you feel productive, but you're not. Your speedometer might be going 100 miles an hour, but you might only be going 10. The way I look at my calendar, the way I look at my day, hey, what are the 2 most important things to do today? That if I did these 2 things, I'm on the right track. Try to get down to those 2. Like, I usually have 2 A priorities for the day. I've got some B's, I've got my C's, but the A's, they must get done. So that's really the value of doing a values exercise, is you end up doing the important things and you're really saying no to the unimportant things. That's really the goal of this whole thing.